Hello students. Today we are going to study one of the advanced technique in immunology, that is radio-labeled immunoassay. Now, before proceeding to this technique, I want to focus on certain basic immunological terms or concepts. So let us see what is immunoassay. Immunoassay, we split this term into two parts. One part is immuno and another part is assay. Immuno refers to an immune response that causes the body to generate antibodies, whereas assay refers to a test. This is the immunoassay's broad definition. Immunoassay is a test that utilizes immunocomplexing when antibody and antigen are brought together. Now, what is antigen, immunogen, and antibody? Antigen is a substance with the ability to induce an immunological response. They typically enter the body from an infection. They are recognized at their epitope by B cells or by the T cell receptor on T cells. Now, what is immunogen? Immunogen is a substance that elicits immune response, whereas antibodies are produced by the B lymphocytes. They are glycoproteins. They are also known as immunoglobulins, which are produced in response to a foreign or invading substance in the body. This is the structure of antibody. Now, this antibody has two parts, two fragments. One is FAB fragment, that is antigen binding fragment, and another fragment is FC region, that is crystallizable fragment. At FAB fragment, antigen binds to this side. That's why they are known as antigen binding fragment. Whereas FC region is the constant region. Now, one thing you have to remember here is that specific antibody will bind to specific antigen only to form antigen-antibody or immune complex. These immune complexes are large enough and we can observe them by naked eye in vitro analysis. But how to detect the presence of antigen or antibody in case when antigen or antibody interaction do occur but they are not visible to us because they may be present in very low concentration. Hence, precipitation and agglutination techniques cannot detect individual antigen-antibody interaction, and therefore there are certain techniques which detect these antigen-antibody interaction which are present in very low concentration, and these techniques are known as immunoassay techniques. These immunoassay techniques are also known as labeled or tag immunoassay. We use radioisotopes or enzymes in these assays. If radioisotopes are used as a tag or label which is covalently linked to antigen or antibody, then this technique is known as radioimmunoassay technique. And if enzymes are used as a tag or label which is also covalently linked to antigen or antibody, then it is known as enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. Now here we are focusing on radioimmunoassay technique. Now let us understand the basic concept of tag or labeled immunoassay. Here, this is a microtiter plate, and here specific antigen are immobilized in microtiter well. Now add specific antibody to this specific antigen. Since both antigen and antibody they are specific to each other, antigen-antibody complex has formed. This binding is not visible to us, but it took place. So, because it is present in very low concentration, what can we do to confirm that binding has occurred? So, take another microtiter well and fix and immobilize the same antigen in the well. But at this time, add label or tag antibody, which is covalently bound to the detectable tag. This tag can be a radioisotope or it can be enzyme. This tag confirms the binding by detecting the tag or label. Now at this time, we confirm the binding by detecting the tag or label.
Hence, we understood the basic concept which is utilized to detect the substances like antigen or antibody which are present in very low concentration in patient's serum sample.
Let us understand what is the difference between isotopes and radioisotope. This is the structure of atom. Atom is composed of three subatomic particles: proton, neutrons and electrons. Number of proton makes the atomic number, whereas sum of the protons and neutron makes the mass of an atom. The definition of isotope is one of two or more species of atoms of a chemical element with the same atomic number but having different atomic masses. These are the examples of isotopes. Let us see the example of isotopes of hydrogen. This is the protium, deuterium and tritium. Protium has only one proton, hence the mass number is 1. Deuterium has one proton and one neutron, hence mass number is 2. And tritium has one proton and two neutrons, hence mass number is 3. Out of these three isotopes of hydrogen, protium and deuterium are stable isotopes, whereas tritium is unstable. Such unstable isotopes, they emit particles or energy to reach a stable form. They do so by emitting radiation such as alpha rays, beta rays and gamma rays. Therefore, such isotopes are known as radioisotope. Thus, we can conclude that an atom is unstable best describes a radioactive isotope. These are the examples of radioisotopes.
Such radioimmunoassay technique was discovered in 1960 by Rosalind Yalow and Solomon Burson for the measurement of endogenous plasma insulin. In 1977, Rosalind Yalow was awarded Nobel Prize for Medicine, whereas Solomon Burson could not receive this award because of his untimely death. Now let us see the basic principle behind this radioisotopic technique. These are the, to keep our illustration simple, these are the microtiter plates. In the first plate, there are two microtiter wells. These microtiter wells are fixed to constant amount of antibody specific to our test antigen. They are immobilized in this well. Then add specific radio-labeled antigen in this well. These antigens will saturate all the antigen binding site of antibody. Then rinse these wells to remove unbound antigen, radio-labeled antigen and measure the radioactivity. It would be maximum, that is 100%. Now, in second macrotiter well, again we take same amount of immobilized antibody, but this time we add unlabeled antigen along with labeled antigen. Remember that both the antibodies have the same affinity for both radio-labeled and unlabeled antigen, since both the antigens are same. Therefore, these antigens will compete with each other for the antigen binding site. Now, some of the antigen binding site will be occupied by unlabeled antigen. Again, after binding takes place, the well is rinsed to remove any unbound antigen. If if we now measure the radioactivity of this well, it will not be the 100%. It will decrease because the unlabeled antigen have replaced some of the radio-labeled antigen. This decrease in radioactivity tells that the antigen is present in the test sample. But how will you determine the concentration of antigen in patient serum sample? To quantitate the concentration of antigen in patient serum sample, first we we need to obtain a standard curve. This standard curve is generated by measuring the amount of radioactivity. Now remember that both these radio-labeled and unlabeled antigen are same as the antigen we are going to detect and quantitate in the patient's serum. Now let us see the basic steps involved in the generation of the standard curve. We require three main components. Now here make it a point that all these components and their quantity is known to us. First component is specific antibody to the test antigen. The quantity of antibody is fixed and immobilized in microtiter well. Second component is radio-labeled antigen. The quantity of radio-labeled antigen is again fixed. This quantity is enough to saturate all the antigen binding sites in the well. Third component is unlabeled antigen. We are using varying concentration of unlabeled antigen. First, we take a microtiter plate. This is the microtiter plate. To keep this illustration simple, we are using only 5 microtiter wells. In each well, we immobilized fixed amount of antibody specific to the antigen. Let us say 3 antibody fixed in each well. Thus, concentration of antibodies are same in all these wells. Now, we add fixed amount of radio-labeled antigen in the first well. This amount of radio-labeled antigen is enough to saturate all the antigen binding site in the microtiter well. Rinse the wells to remove unbound antigen. If we measure the radioactivity of this well, it will be maximum. Let us say 100%. This is our control well. Next, we will add same fixed amount of radio-labeled antigen in other wells too. But along with this, we will add an increasing known concentration of unlabeled antigen. That means except first well, all the 4 wells has fixed amount of radio-labeled antigen, but they have increasing concentration of unlabeled antigen. Now, as we said that antibody fixed in the well cannot distinguish radio-labeled or unlabeled antigen. Thus, in each case, the unlabeled antigen will compete with the labeled antigen for the antigen binding site in the well. In simple words, as the concentration of antigen increases, that is, concentration of unlabeled antigen increases, they will occupy more antigen binding site. Wells are rinsed to remove unbound antigens. Now measure the radioactivity of each well by gamma counter. Radioactivity will decrease in each well with increasing amount of unlabeled antigen. This is because some of antigen binding site will be occupied by antigen and there is less number of bound radio-labeled antigen in each of these well as compared to the control well. At the end of this procedure, we will have radioactivity for each well. Also, we know concentration of unlabeled antigen in each well. Let us now plot standard curve. Now let us plot standard curve. Y-axis represents radioactivity measured for each well and x-axis represents concentration of unlabeled antigen. Now, as the concentration of antigen increases, the radioactivity decreases. Now, to quantitate the concentration of the antigen in patient serum sample, we will take the same quantity of immobilized antibody in the microtiter well as we used in the standard curve. To this well, we add a fixed amount of radio-labeled antigen Again, this amount is same as we use in standard curve. Along with this, we will add suspension of patient serum sample which has unlabeled antigen. Antigen present in patient serum will compete with radio-labeled antigen for antigen binding site in this way. Wells are rinsed to remove unbound antigen and radioactivity is measured. Now, radioactivity decreases. Let's say radioactivity measured is 35%, which indicates presence of antigen in the patient serum. We will extrapolate this value of radioactivity in the standard curve. We will get to know the quantity of antigen present in patient serum. In this way, we can find out the concentration of antigen.
Thus, radioimmunoassay technique has wide application in medical field. This radioimmunoassay technique mainly used to detect hormones and detect allergies. The most important advantage of radioimmunoassay in the measurement of compounds in biological fluid is the quite precision and extreme sensitivity which cannot be achieved by other analytical techniques. This test can be used to determine very small quantities like nanogram or picogram of antigens and antibodies in the serum. But there are certain disadvantages also. This technique is hazardous to researchers because of exposure to radioactivity. Most of the radioactive isotopes have short half-life and the instrumentation like Geiger-Müller counter and gamma counter are very costly. That's all for radioimmunoassay technique. Thank you.